my elderly parents and my handicapped family that's living here, but these post-disaster, pre-disaster mitigation issues, like how you exit from that building in a fire, are not taken away as problems. Look at that. So we build all these things, but then we have got what? Do you know what this is? Anybody know what this is? Vents. Someone said that's a vent. What is that? Let's see who can figure this out. What's that, sir?
Fire hydrant.
Fire hydrant. Do we have any water in those fire hydrants? Absolutely not. Because our water system is all, yeah. How about that? That you can tell, right? That's not data, that's all dry, right? We'd like to get our, we need pumps to pump our water, right? So when you talk to all these people that say high-rise buildings, oh, we have water. Oh, yeah? Where do you get your water? Oh, well, we got borings, yeah? Artesian, they say, where do you store your water? We got tanks. So in case of a fire, how do you send the water up? Oh, we got pumps. But if you don't know electricity and we're operating on a tukey, what good does this do? And when you have absolutely no water, why do you allow these types of structures to be built? I'm not saying you're not allowed to build it. You need to build it. But you have to address these pre-mitigation issues related to fires, related to earthquakes, related to traffic, related to environment, related to all kinds of things, related to social issues, related to disability issues. You need to do all those things before you allow such construction to go on. And there is rampantly this all over the place. I can see it right out of your window over here. The story there is, if you had this 100-year flood in 1926, we had in 2014, how many more years? Another 10 years? And if we do what we're doing to that river, what do you think is going to happen? Is man's way going to make it, or nature's way going to make it? Nature's going to have its way, right? Which means what? Total destruction again. So instead of that, why don't we again think of pre-mitigation techniques that are relevant to that traditional structure or that river, and do things so that we can prevent the post-disaster consequences, right? But nobody's really thinking about it. And you can see they're building it. Why do you need to put an island in the middle of the river when you know in another 10, 15 years, that island is going to be gone? Why don't you give the river its breath? And you are all dealing with that kind of work, isn't it? So Icimod should be up in arms and saying, hey, you know what? This is a disaster the way you guys are designing this thing. Anybody thinking of that? So I'm going to go to another one. I just kind of look and see these things around, and it really bothers me. You know, I don't know if it bothers you all, but it really bothers me. Everybody know where this is? Fire building, right? You know where that is, right? Your neighbor, right?
Yes.
Okay? Post 1934. These are what we call essential facilities. These buildings need to be operational in case of an earthquake. They're brick buildings. What happens to brick buildings in an earthquake? They're very, very vulnerable, isn't it? And there are cracks and all kinds of stuff all over. I mean, how come nobody's thinking of this? How come they're not retrofitting this if they want to? Because it's historic in a way. For that matter, why aren't they thinking of maybe building another fire station that is proven to be disaster mitigated, yeah? Seismically correct, designed correctly. But none of that is happening. And we do the same thing to our police, hospitals, childcare, schools. This is eye hospital. Brick. Why do you put ice in a brick building? I don't understand. I mean, there's enough money in here. There's an adjoining building that's... And then, this is very familiar to a lot of people in here, huh? You know where this is, right? Anybody know where this is? Huh? It's the Paltanga. It's a 300-year-old historic building. But it took them 6 hours to put that fire out because our infrastructure wasn't in place. The water was not there. The fire trucks could not be. So what kind of development is this? Are we again forgetting we need to do these pre-disaster mitigation issues before we allow all kinds of rampant development to go on? And this is disaster, isn't it? One person got injured, all kinds of things happen. Similarly, look at this. Now this happens in all your homes, right? think about it, how dangerous or how much of a risk or hazard is one gas tank in your home? Probably not too much, huh? What about if I put 3 on the 3rd floor? Imagine this on the 21st floor of a high-rise building. The guy is really rich. He doesn't want to deal with the shortages of gas in Kathmandu, right? So he stocks up 4, 5, 6. He's got lots of guests, parties. Now imagine if one of these goes off. Then don't mind, but the analogy is your ass is grass. You know what that means, right? Why don't we mitigate these when we have high-rise buildings? Are we? Probably not. Nobody's not thinking about it. Or they're thinking about it, but no, there's no regulations, right? We're all familiar with this, right? Mapuja, just finished. Somebody's having a birthday. But then, tall nice buildings, your neighborhood. But then we have a fire. On that floor, up there. How do you escape? What do you do? Questions, just questions I'm asking. There is the fire. None of your fire trucks can reach 75. Okay? Sorry, lad. And then you have somebody who is disabled. We have problems. Alright? And if you go through these buildings, you'll find that your exiting is not correct. There's one way out. Doesn't work. Similarly, all this equipment, they're not anchored. Your water tank, that's where they get their water. The fire trucks apparently get their water from your water tanks up there. You build buildings, very tall buildings in brick. Schools get converted. Buildings get converted to school. Another set of hazard. Just one little take, okay? So now we deal a little bit with disability. One weight over here, another weight there. None of this is concentric. So these are called irregularities. These are very, very honorable earthquake. Nobody's bothered about it. Similarly, these are offsets. Nobody's bothered about it. Look at this. We like to put these openings in there, but they say we have frames, but they are not continuous. Therefore, the loads don't travel. So these are all, again, pre-mitigation issues that don't get addressed. We love frames, but nobody's worried about these connections. Nobody checks them. Same thing. Again, load path is there. We broke it up. And then we break things, and then we decide to use it in some other way. The structural system changes, but nobody's bothered. So there's something is just not right. There are a lot of factors that go into account, and they have to be taken into account. There's a balance between hazard and risk. We don't worry about those. So there are a few things you can see needs to be done. There are codes that need to be done. There are some people who took these courses. We need more of them. Maybe these are the topics that need to be taught and studied. And I think the lesson from this is that every one of you here has that ability. And the message is, let's start thinking about this, doing it right. Yeah. So it's my conviction there is hope. Because you all have extraordinary powers. You can induce meaningful and timely and needed change. Because you are all leaders, you are privileged, you are educated. And maybe if we live by that little principle. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and namaste, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, thanks to Mr. Ananta Bajasi for explaining us the situations in Kathmandu where we live. I think buildings are a big part of disaster management, because in 1934 when we had this earthquake, 20% of the buildings were destroyed and 40% were damaged. So I think this is really a good presentation.
I know him for a long time before, and he went to US 40 years ago. I left the Netherlands 40 years ago. That's the difference. So he has been practicing quite a lot this type of work in the US. And what I see, what he has been displaying to you, is giving the information. He's showing the value of information. That is the most important part of the pre-medication or medication, whatever you call it. Information is a resource for our daily life. That is something I want to add to it, to all of you. And I'm sure that Icimod can take it up this as a part of disaster risk management. Second point, he has demonstrated to you how the people can suffer, how even the disabled people can suffer. What is addressing? In the scientific terms, we call this is social capital. If you don't address the social capital, that the people can suffer a lot on that. So we have to address to the particular vulnerable groups, at least to the lowest disabled people here, because they can't even walk like this. And I would like to give my practical example to you. I invited my sister, my brother and sister in Netherlands. But my sister says, I can't walk here. I can't walk, how can I come? Then I said, oh, you can come with a wheelchair and all. They said, okay, in Netherlands, we have no problem of this type of wheelchair, disabled people. You can go anywhere, they will help you. In my imagination, though he is in the US, I'm sure that he's thinking everyday life of in Kathmandu. Yeah? I'm sure for that. That's why you could speak in this way in more in a practical sense.
Following your presentation, we are inviting disaster on that count or not?
The river is always going to seek its own way at some point. Now, if you plan for it in that way, we save our heritage, we control the river, and we prepare for the disaster, impending disaster. But if we do what we want, just dump it here, make a road, do this, we're inviting a disaster consequence. We know there's a hazard, but we are now elevating the risk. When that occurs, we don't know, but when it occurs, it's something that is not going to be palatable to any one of us here. And then we say, यसो गरे त हुन्थ्यो नि, किन गर्नु भएन त पहिला? Because you have all the resources, you have all the manpower, but you are not thinking. The point is, you're not thinking. So all these things that I'm trying to show, the message is, let's start thinking slightly differently, out of the box. We're all intellectuals here. And even the work that you do, you have to think slightly outside the box. Whether it is a building, or it is that landslide that I can show you, or whether it is Imja with this glacial lake. We can have to think outside the box and start doing pre-mitigation issues beforehand.
कर्णाली महाकाली कोसी कहीं बागमती कर्णाली महाकाली कोसी कहीं बागमती
हिमालकै जलधारा एउटैको छ नाम कति